Hello, what's going on? My radical leftist lunatics. I'm sure not all of you are, but the ones that can tolerate me probably are, right? Otherwise, you'd be like, screw this, man. I'm out. So if you are here, please say hello, do a thumbs up, hit that like button if you don't mind. Everything I say is simply my opinion for the sake of hoping to start a conversation, open up a discussion, learn something. All of my videos are made for YouTube, and it's an infotainment platform. And what else? Like, share, subscribe, all that noise. What's going on here? So many cords. You know how it is. If I touch one thing, make sure you're still subscribed. Share a video of mine with somebody that you think might like it, and turn on your notification bell to ring. Let me just jump right in and get started with the introduction of a new face in this abundantly flooded zone of the YouTubans. So the name is Nadia. I'm not even sure how you say her last name. She's one of approximately 5 young women that are sort of like mini jizzes, kind of, sort of. Nadia Marcinko is somebody who was born in Slovakia in 1986. In 2001, when she was 15 years old, her father allegedly sold her to Jeffrey, and sometimes her last name is Marcinkova, and other times it's shortened to Marcinko, Nadia. So 2001, when you plug Virginia Giuffre into that equation, she left the building, so to speak, metaphorically, in around September of 2002. So she was required to train Nadia to do all of the things that she did, you know, towel girl, etc., etc., etc. Hold on, I got a howling teenager in the next room. 1 second. I'm on my live, baby. Thanks. Oh my goodness, she does that sometimes. She likes to howl. It's kind of hilarious. I think she used to think she was a dog when she was really little. She is the one. I wasn't sure if it was her or my older daughter. So let's see. I'm going to try to just go right to this video that I'm in with you, but keeping the volume turned off so that it doesn't put us in a loop of insanity, right? Come on, volume all the way off. There you go. And then from there, I can get to what I queued up already in the description, which is simply Nadia's Wikipedia. So let's start with that, just to lay some groundwork and get a little educated. Ayareti. I also have the Wikipedia, I think, of Vladimir. We got to talk about Vladimir Putin. We got to talk about, and I'm going to have to say Daddy Vladdy. We're going to have to talk about Bibi, because Bibi's huge. Absolutely huge in the story of Virginia Giuffre and in the story of our country. So Nadia Marcinko, also known as Nada Marcinkova, is Slovak, born in 1986, Slovakian-born pilot, flight instructor. So not so sure about that. That kind of seems like a made-up kind of thing. CEO of Avaloop, an aviation website. She's known for being a co-conspirator of financier and registered Rex offender Jeffrey E., as well as Jiz. Marcinko has reportedly been missing since early 2024. So we're coming up on 2 years. And let's see about her association with Epstein. Over the years, several news outlets have reported that Marcinko, previously known under the name of Nadia Marcinkova, worked as a long-term assistant to Little E and was a regular pilot of Little E's so-called Lolita Express. She was a co-pilot. I don't think she was ever a pilot. It was reported that she was one of 4 of Little E's accomplices, including Sarah Kellen. Now, these are the people that I call the mini jizzes that were protected in that sweetheart deal. That Jizz is trying to get that protection for herself. Shouldn't apply to any of them, in my opinion. But who am I, right? Okay, so Sarah Kellen, Adriana Ross, and Leslie Groff. They were given immunity from prosecution in Little E's non-prosecution agreement from 2008, which saw him serve a sentence of just over a year. Not really. The Guardian reported that Marcinkova was questioned in 2010 concerning Little E, who was convicted of soliciting an underage girl for prostitution. In 2015, which is actually not soliciting an underage girl for prostitution. That's called statutory. Okay. In 2015, the Daily Telegraph reported that Marcinko, during questioning regarding alleged underage activities, had invoked her right not to incriminate herself, protected by the U.S. Constitution's Fifth Amendment, which she was asked about the Duke of York, who was a frequent guest of Little E. According to the Miami Herald, Marcinko visited Little E more than 70 times when he was in Palm Beach custody. More than 70 times when he was in Palm Beach custody after his first criminal conviction. So she's a victim too, really, in my opinion, right? I mean, unless she was just there to coordinate other people to get abused, which is entirely possible, but most likely it was her at the brunt of the abuse. In 2019, in written testimony given by Little E's underage victims, Marcinko is also described as having encouraged and engaged in acts with underage girls, sometimes involving toys at the suggestion of Little E, adult toys. In one account, according to the police, Little E told one victim Marcinkova was his rec slave and that Little E had purchased her when she was 15 from her family in the former Yugoslavia. A claim journalist Philip Weiss had made in New York Magazine in 2007. So the same thing is pretty much similar story for Virginia Giuffre. I'm wondering if the same similar story is for Melania. It's a question, not an accusation. In September 2019, a CNN article stated that Marcinko may be a, quote, victim of Little E as well as an accomplice, in quotes. CNN also quoted Marcinko's lawyers who said, like other victims, Nadia Marcinko is and has been severely traumatized, and that she needs time to process, well, why is she hiding then? Unless she's, not of the living anymore. Entirely possible. And that she needs time to process and make sense of what she has been through before she is able to speak out. She was born Nadia Marcinkova in eastern Czechoslovakia. Her father, Peter Marcinko, is an architect from Slovakia. So that's Slovakia. And then the first lady's from Slovenia. They're not too far apart. Actually, they're about 250 miles apart. I think Slovenia is the one that's on the, it touches the water. So it's like across the water from Italy. It's like the northwest corner of that body of water. And then Slovakia is sort of, or I meant northeast. Slovakia is northeast of Slovenia. and there's a country or two in between them. I think Slovakia is right around Romania. I think it's like up against the border of Romania. It was incorrectly reported that Marcinkova was from Yugoslavia. According to her father, she was not brought as a young girl to the U.S. to live with little E. After leaving little E, she changed her name to Nadia Marcinko. Marcinkova has reportedly been missing since early January 2024. Her disappearance may be linked to the release of the final batch of little E documents that same month. Let's see, what else do I want to read to you out of this? I think there was one other. Yeah, I wanted to read this part about her career as a fake pilot. In multiple sources, references are made by Marcinko herself to being a model, particularly in her teen years. However, it is not clear whether her references to modeling are about her early life in Europe or the period after she came to the US. And I want to point out how intriguing and curious it is that people like Melania, people like, why am I drawing a blank? Erica. There's like this big, vast black hole in their lives prior to when things are being recorded. Like for Melania, she didn't exist until she was about 26 years old and was a model here in New York City in the US. And then for Erica, she kind of really didn't exist as far as trying to find anything on the internet until roughly around the time that she won the Miss Arizona title in 2011. And she won the title for the 2012 Miss America pageant, Miss USA pageant that was owned by, Tenacious D. However, it is not clear whether her references to modeling are about her early life in Europe or the period after she came to the US. And so I think that's really curious when it's like this black hole of no information. Like, what are they hiding? Otherwise, there'd be information there. She describes her transition from modeling to becoming a pilot by saying she was ready for longer runways and went from runway to runway. I mean, sure, that's great in the event that it's reality, but I think it's just for show. She just looks cute in the outfit, in like the flying upside down photo that I used for the thumbnail. Adorbs. In August 2019, Business Insider reported that depositions taken in relation to the Little E case disputed that she had been a model. Other sources also dispute her modeling background. Marcinko started flight training at a flight school at the Palm Beach County, Florida airport, and with 250 hours in her logbook, she accepted an offer from Little E to obtain her Gulfstream 2 rating, and was certified shortly thereafter. As of 2019, she held 3 rating certificates for single-engine aircraft, multi-engine aircraft, and various Gulfstream business jets have individual certificates. Marcinko became known on social media under the label Gulfstream Girl. Gulfstream Aerospace filed a trademark infringement suit against her on November 18th, 2013. Marcinko and Gulfstream reached an out-of-court settlement filed on January 6, 2014, after which Marcinko changed her online name to Global Girl. As of 2019, she remained CEO of her aviation business, Avaloop, described by Wired as a supremely odd aviation branding business whose website features flawless shots of her with Gulfstreams. The business is based at an address in New York that is in a property controlled by Mark Epstein, brother of Jeffrey. So, yeah, and let me mention here real quick, too, about the, today's election day. It's November 4th. It's about 7:15 in the evening. And yes, I voted. I'm so glad that I was able to. And in case you haven't heard yet, the elections in New Jersey have been halted by both power outages and bomb threats. So a little sus, to say the least, right? I'd say very sus. Where's my people? Nobody's here in the chat with me. That's okay. That's okay. Let me just keep talking. I'm not too tired yet. What I really wanted to talk about is the people that aren't named in Virginia Giuffre's book. So she names some. She speaks a lot in the book about a former prime minister. And for some reason, it seems that everybody assumes, and you know what happens when we assume, everybody assumes that this former prime minister, that it's the one who beat her up. It's Anna Bees. Hello, hello, my dear. How are you? Are you working? Because I was thinking of you and thinking if you're at work, you're probably just getting on shift. So it'd be hard to get on. How is it going? How's your daughter? So the prime minister is who hurt her so badly she was fearful for her life, and then she had to entertain him again, so to speak, on an airplane right before she parted ways with the whole scene. So prior to September of 2002 was the second time that she mentions in the book. There might be other times that she failed to mention, because she comes straight out and says there's a lot she's not putting in the book for obvious reasons. So everybody I've ever heard take a stab at who this former prime minister is, prime minister of the country that starts with the I. People say, and I'm probably saying his name incorrectly, Ehud Barak. You can help me if I'm saying it wrong, and you know how to say it, Anna. I know you're good at the phonetics in the chat. Ehud Barak. Anyway, he was the prime minister of the I country for 2 years, from 1999 to 2001. So the time that she was having to entertain this, who she refers to as a former prime minister, was somewhere between the year 2000 and 2002, because that's when she left the scene, 2002. So this Barack prime minister was an active prime minister at least until 2001. And then there was Ariel Sharon. Again, I might be saying his name wrong. He was the prime minister of the country that starts with an I. And she doesn't say it's the country that starts with an I. She just says former prime minister. But 01 to 06. There's so much with little e and the country that starts with an I. I think that it's highly likely that that is the country that is being referred to. And then there's Ehud Olmert, who was the prime minister between 2006 and 2009. And leaving us with Bibi, who was in the entire 2 years that Virginia was with little E and Jiz. He was a former prime minister at that time, because he served as the prime minister from 1996 until 1999 for 3 years. That was his first term. And then I believe he's been prime minister ever since 09. 09 to 21 was his second, third, and fourth term. And then 22 until current is his fifth term that he's in right now. And personally, I've always thought it was him. Sorry, I was taking the trash out. I don't know how to pronounce those names. Oh, you're good. Thank you. Yeah, it's trash night for me too, girlfriend. See how much we have in common? So yeah, that prime minister and the other person that I don't think Virginia mentions, who I think is, in my mind, the former prime minister is as much involved in the scene with Little E and Jizz and Virginia as Randy Andy, who, the royal formerly known as the prince. I think that's a good way to handle it. And then the other one who's never ever mentioned is another guy who's been like the prime minister and the president of a country formerly known as the USSR for, I don't know, maybe even longer than the current prime minister of the country that starts with an I, BB. My daughter's not doing great. I've been staying home with her because she can't do anything herself right now. Oh dear, I'm so glad she has you, and I hope you have a good paid off package, paid time off. I bet you do. Wow. Yeah, that's so hard with the broken foot. I can't remember if there was other stuff broken too. Wasn't there, like hand or something like that? Yikes. So this other guy, Daddy Vladdy, as I like to call him. And then there's the sheiks of the United, what is it? The United Arab Emirates. Is that how you say it? The UAE. These are people that little Tenacious D has been meeting with a lot. Think about how often he was meeting with the royal formerly known as Prince. Think of how often he was meeting up with that family in recent weeks. And then he was meeting with Daddy Vladdy in Russia a couple of weeks before that. He's going to be involved with BB, has some kind of, a criminal court trial, I think, coming right up. I'm not sure exactly when. And then, the Qatar, the airplane and all that stuff, hanging out with that royalty or leadership, the elites of Saudi. No, I wish I did. She has a broken wrist, but had surgery for her wrist. You don't have the paid time off, my dear? I'm so sorry. That is rough. That's awful. So if my daughter making noise in the background, if you can hear it, let me know and I'll ask her to tone it down. It might just be me that can hear it. It's not too bad. So the problem with these people in positions of power. So Daddy Vladdy was appointed by Boris Yeltsin. And, I don't keep up with all this stuff. So I was going over it in detail today to present it to you. So if you know things that I don't know, please fill me in. And if I get anything incorrect, please correct me. And I apologize in advance because I'm not real familiar with this stuff. So I just know what I was able to find on the internet. So Boris Yeltsin was and they went from prime minister to president to prime minister. It's confusing because of all the status changes. I think he was the prime minister. Boris Yeltsin was the leadership in 1991 to 1999. And then in 1999, he appointed Daddy Vladdy to start taking the reigns in 2000. So from 2000 to 2008, Daddy Vladdy kept that position. And then, from 84 until the year 2000, he was KGB. Vladdy was. And then 2012 until current, he's been the president. So he might have been prime minister 2000 to 2008. And then I think it was a few people that in between period. So Putin has been about 25 years in power. And then Bibi has been, what, maybe 30 years in power? And then, poor little Tenacious D has only been in power for 5 years. So I'm sure he wants to keep up with his friends, right? They're having a pissing contest, so to speak. Oh, and Daddy Vladdy's slotted to be in that position, I think, until 2036, you guys, for another 11 years. And did you know that his grandfather was a chef for Lenin and he also cooked for Stalin? You can't make this stuff up, can you? You could try, but then people would just think you're cray-cray. Oh, and did you know that Melania is the first Roman Catholic First Lady since Jackie O? Isn't that sweet? So, let's see. So Boris Yeltsin had a major drinking problem. A lot of us knew that. And he was like absolutely hammered a lot of the time. And he was like wildly hiring and firing people in his cabinet pretty much daily. And so there was one person that stuck around, and that was Vladdy. And so he was kind of like the last man standing on the day when Boris was like, I'll appoint you, which is kind of creepy for a lot of reasons, but especially because if you look at pictures of Daddy Vladdy when he was younger, he looks just like Riff Raff from Rocky Horror Picture Show, and just like Squidward from SpongeBob, and just like Stephen Miller from the White House. Just saying. Coincidence? And then that whole freaking Great Gatsby party that they had on Friday night. Was it Halloween on Friday? I think that was. So I'm sure everybody is aware about the president flying down to Mar-a-Lago to have this outrageously over-the-top, tone-deaf Great Gatsby party, which is perfect, especially because he obviously doesn't know the story and he doesn't know that the Great Gatsby's not great. It's more like the Wizard of Oz, right? He is like, ignore the man behind the curtain. Gatsby was a lot like our president, just like a complete showboat and very superficial and empty. And it's a tragedy. It's a tragedy basically about money, how money can't buy you love. And so it's poetic or ironic that that was the theme for the party of, what was the little phrase they had, like a little party never killed nobody. It's like, what are you talking about? Not true, especially in The Great Gatsby. The party did unalive Gatsby. Did you miss that part? He drowned in his own swimming pool. And I can't remember if the only other passing away in the story is the girlfriend of Tom Buchanan. And I think her name was Daisy. And she was poor, and Tom Buchanan was like the old money guy. I'd have to look it up. Anyway. Oh, you're thinking of doing a GoFundMe? Well, you could do it here if you want. I'd be more than happy to put it on my community page, Anna Bees. I'd be very happy to do that for you guys. I would be honored. I've never done one, so I don't know how to do one. They're trying to make Little T into a dictator like them. Right. I think that they have everything to do with like the bomb threats and the power outages. I blame Vladdy for everything, but I think that Bibi is sort of like, he's probably Vladdy's puppet master, in all honesty, right? If you really want to get down to it. Because the country with an I probably is much more financially solvent than the country with the R. They had strippers there. What did the Christian nationalists thought of it. Exactly. Yeah, the woman in scantily clad sort of dancing in the oversized champagne glass outside, that was kind of embarrassing to look at, because the way she was like moving her legs and the way she was dressed, it was like you could have seen things that you couldn't unsee, right? The Great Gatsby was a great story. I know, I love the story. I love the story, but it's, if for anybody who doesn't know or who doesn't remember, and this is just off the top of my head, I mean, it hit me. I read that in high school. I think it was my senior year. And, you had the East Egg and the West Egg not in New Hampshire, on Long Island. So it was the Hamptons. And I think it was the West Egg was the old money and the East Egg was the new money. And so the Buchanans were old money and they lived across the water, and Gadsby was the new money, who was just really tacky and over the top and ostentatious and just ridiculous. And so the whole story is basically about how old money kind of has class and new money tries too hard, basically. People with old money are generally not so rude about it, and they tend to be more generous, basically. But then I want to say that the author, the narrator of the story, was like the groundskeeper for The Great Gatsby. And so the story is written from the groundskeeper's perspective. And the Great Gatsby is in love with Tom Buchanan's wife. And her name might be Daisy. I think it is. I think that's Daisy Buchanan. And then Tom Buchanan, her old money husband, and they're both old money, has a lover, like a poor woman in the city who's also married. And she passes away in a car crash. And I want to say it's their car that hits her. And I want to say that Daisy might have been driving, but it was a freak accident. It wasn't intentional. It was probably raining. Anyway, it was just a really chaotic scene. And so she gets hit by the car and is unalived. And Gadsby is in love with Daisy, but at the end of the story, so he's always throwing these lavish parties to try to impress her and to try to invite her over and to try to entice her and connect with her. And it never works. And in the end, he drowns in his own swimming pool. I think the groundskeeper, the narrator of the story, finds him much the way Brian Jones was found in his swimming pool the morning after a big party, right? And it sounds like you've read it, Annabise. New money have no class. That's what old money people think, even today in real life. Right. And it again, the classism is really sickening. And, when you think of old money, like I automatically think of the British royalty. And I mean, talk about crooks, right? Talk about no class. I mean, I think they offed Princess Diana. It's just my opinion, just my radical conspiracy theory opinion, allegedly. But I firmly believe that. And, doing that type of thing, that ain't got no class. Anyway, yeah, a lot of people misunderstand the meaning of The Great Gatsby because they just see the surface of, this wealthy, attractive, successful man. He lives alone. He's extremely lonely. I mean, that's what the whole story is all about. And his only friend in the world is his groundkeeper, basically. But it's the perfect irony for what the Tenacious D is doing with his life and what he's not doing with his life. I mean, imagine having access to all those resources and actually doing good in the world to help people. Like, if he wants to be remembered, he could try doing good, because if he's convicted of crimes, every effing thing that has been named after him or that he's named after himself, every single one of them will be renamed and or demolished. Like, does he not know that? Like, he's definitely a tool. He's just not the sharpest tool in the shed, or as he said, not the sharpest bulb in the drawer, right? Those are his words, not mine. Not the sharpest bulb in the drawer. OMG. I think they offed her too. Oh, you think that the Buchanans offed the mistress? I thought it was an accident. But yeah. Fascinating, Annabes. Fascinating. We could read the Cliff Notes, see how I did, right? I mean, I remember reading it in high school because I remember at the end when he drowned in the swimming pool. Yeah, it was raining when the car accident happened, I'm pretty sure. Is that the rain symbolized love? Like, there's a lot of symbology in The Great Gatsby. The water symbolizes love. So Gatsby drowned in his yearning for love. That's what took him out. He's a dumbass. Well stated, Annabes. Everything in Britain and the country is stolen from other cultures. Yeah. And I'm sure that they're scared to death of this whole situation with Vladdy, Tenacious D, and BB, because they want their money, right? They want the Royals' money. So the Royals are going to be fighting like hell. And, they've already stripped the royal formerly known as Prince Andrew of all of his everything. But they're probably going to have to continue to strip him more, because he's probably going to get criminal charges for a lot of things, not just statutory, but for specifically one of the things, and our dear leader needs to pay close attention to this. More than anything, Andrew is probably in the most criminal trouble for putting his own royal detail on the assignment of stalking and harassing and discrediting Virginia Giuffre. That's probably the crime that he'll be heading to prison for, in my estimation. No, I mean Princess Di and the Royals. Yeah. Oh, you think they offed her too? Yeah. I thought you meant the Buchanans and Tom Buchanan's mistress. But the irony of that story is that the Buchanans did off Tom Buchanan's mistress. Is just that it was an accident. Like, she was running across the street, and with all the chaos of the rain, there might have even been a fire simultaneously, because that would have been symbolic too, right? Like, it was a really hot day. I remember that. Anyway, I'll kind of breeze through the Cliff Notes with you. But yeah, so you're talking about Princess Diana and the Royals. Yeah, to me it seems so obvious. So obvious. The minute it happened, I mean, I don't know if I've shared with you or shared with my viewers that my husband and I were in Hawaii when it happened. We were in Honolulu. And I remember, it's sort of like when people talk about remembering when Kennedy was assassinated. I remember driving the rental car in a part of downtown Honolulu and hearing it on the radio that she passed away in this car accident. And I was just like, they did that. I mean, obviously. She was divorcing their son, and they just couldn't have it. Not only was she'd already divorced him, but she was looking like she was going to marry Dodie. And there's people who say she was pregnant. That always drives me nuts when women pass away and there's always the rumors about the pregnancy stuff. It's just like, if it's true, that's one thing. If it's just rumor, it's just freaking annoying, because it seems like it's always a rumor of that. And then there was the 60-minute interview that our dear leader did. I think, didn't he do that interview on Friday, on Halloween, before the Gatsby party? But then they showed it to the world on Sunday, And today is now what, all of Monday? It seems like it was so long ago that they showed it. How can it only be Monday? Is that for real? No, it's Tuesday. It's Tuesday. Yesterday was Monday. Sorry, I fell into a time warp. Okay. So it was the day before yesterday was when it was shown on 60 Minutes. And then, so for the last 48 hours, people have been going over the transcripts and finding the parts that were edited out and heavily edited, like even edited out of the quote unquote unedited version. So the only way journalists found out about that was by going to the actual transcripts and finding some of the crazy ass things he said that they just completely cut out so that he didn't sound so crazy. But I mean, he sounded crazy from jump. Like before the, I'm forgetting her name, the woman who interviewed him, if you remember, Annabise, before she could even get her first question out, he said something like, Joe Biden did it. It was just like, it was like a Saturday Night Live skit, honestly. And he just couldn't stop with, I think somebody counted 87 or 187 times that he said Biden's name in the interview. I'll have to double check that. But he literally said everything bad was Biden's fault and everything good was his, right? Yeah. Okay. So I wanted to read to you a little bit of history about Daddy Vladdy. And I also wanted to read to you a little bit more about Nadia Marcinko. Am I saying it right? Nadia Marcinko? Nadia Marcinko. So let me just pull up, go straight to the Daddy Vladdy stuff. And let me get a drink of my veggie juice, my smoothie. Okay. He was born October 7th, 1952. And before I forget, I just want to interject real quick here because we just came out of October. That it occurred to me over the last couple of days that I did not pay tribute to Helena Hutchins. I want to say she passed away like October 21st, a few years ago. And then didn't the trial just wrap up last year? The mistrial, the miscarriage of justice. And how I stand firm in my belief that that was no accident. And that Alec Baldwin knew what he was doing. And she lost her life. And even if he didn't know what he was doing, it was just his stupidity. He still should not have been treated with such kid loves by the justice system in New Mexico. But New Mexico, that's where Zora Ranch is. There's some weird stuff with New Mexico. So let's go over this. Vladdy is a Russian politician born October of 52, October 7. Former intelligence officer who has served as president since 2012, having previously served from 2000 to 2008. He also served as prime minister from 99 to 2000, and again from 2008 to 12. Okay, so he's been the one in charge since 99. 26 years. That's crazy. So straight through, there hasn't been anybody else. With Bibi, there were 3 or 4, I think 3 others in a few year period where he was not in the leadership role. But with Vladdy, it's been him since 99, either as prime minister or as president. Okay, he has been described as the de facto leader of Russia since 2000. And let's see. So there are other prime ministers while he's president, I believe, because it has some prime ministers listed that have been there since 2012. So 13 years that he's had these prime ministers. And then he was the prime minister in 2000 to 08. I wonder if he had more power when he was prime minister than as president. I don't know. I don't know all the ins and outs of this stuff. Well, when he was prime minister, somebody else was president. So this guy, Dmitry Medvedev, I can't say it, Medved, Medvedev. It looks like they switched off being prime minister, or anyway, let's just keep going. It's so confusing. So Boris Yeltsin was the one who appointed him. And man, he's an independent. He was married in 83, divorced in 2014. See, I want to know, like, with Daddy Vladdy and BB, if they're doing like the whole baby farming thing. That's what I want to know. I mean, it seems like that's what these billionaires are all out for, right? Like reproduction, and they're all into the what's the word for the weird eugenics? They're all into the eugenics. So Vladdy went to Leningrad University and Leningrad Mining Institute. Candidate of Sciences. He has a full list of awards: military service, KGB, FSB, and Russian Armed Service, or Russian Armed Forces. Years of service from 75 until present, pretty much, so like 50 years. There was a brief period from 91 to 97 that he wasn't serving his country. So 50 freaking years. His rank was Colonel, First Class Active State Counselor of the Russian Federation. He was the Supreme Commander-in-Chief. The wars and battles that he fought in were the Second Chechen War, the Russo-Georgian War, the Russo-Ukrainian War, Syrian Civil War, Central African Republic Civil War. He worked as KGB Foreign Intelligence Officer for 16 years, rising to the rank of Lieutenant Colonel, resigned in 91 to begin a political career in St. Petersburg. In 96, he moved to Moscow. I don't know how you're supposed to say it. I know the one in Idaho is the other way. Like, I think you say Moscow when you're talking about Russia and Moscow when you're talking about Idaho, but I could have it backwards. He moved to Moscow to join the administration of President Boris Yeltsin. He briefly served as the dictator of Federal Security Services, FSB, and then as Secretary of the Security Council of Russia before being appointed Prime Minister in August 99. Following Yeltsin's resignation, he became acting president, and less than 4 months later, in May of 2000, was elected to his first term as president, and then reelected in 2004. Due to constitutional limitations on 2 consecutive presidential terms, Putin served as prime minister again from 2008 to 2012 under Dmitry Medvedev. Sorry, I'm sure I'm saying it wrong. He returned to the presidency in 2012 following an election marked by allegations of fraud and protest, and was reelected in 2018. That's what he said. Sorry, helping my daughter to the bathroom. Oh, sweetheart, tell her I say hello. And yes, please think about getting the GoFundMe account up and running, and then I'd be more than happy to circulate it on my community tab. I mean, I don't get a lot of traffic on my community tab, but I'd be more than happy to put it there. So And then maybe we can ask other people to share it too. In our little online community here, our Kylie Rodney supporters and such. Let's see. Where are we? Us anti-traffickers, right? Us Antifa. Us Antifa. I better not say that. I'll get locked up. I'll get deported. Let's see. Where was I? I'm all the way up here. During his initial presidential tenure, the economy grew on average by 7% per year. Oh, and let me just say that I want to say it was Boris Yeltsin who was down to like a 2% approval rating at the end of his presidency when he appointed Putin. I'll double check in my notes if I don't forget. But yeah, our leadership is down to like 30 to 37%, somewhere in there. It's like the lowest approval rating, I think, of any president in the history of our country. And he's in complete denial about it. He's like, oh no, it's all great. It's all good. Oh, except for that fake news trying to mess me up. Okay. As a result of economic reforms and a 5-fold increase in the price of oil and gas. Additionally, Vladdy led Russia in, I just don't want to say the whole word because, it puts it in the algorithm, in a conflict against Chechen separatists. That'll probably do it too. Reestablishing federal control over the region while serving as prime minister under Medved. We'll just go with Medvedev, something like that. He saw a military conflict with Georgia and enacted military and police reforms. In his third term, our country annexed Crimea and supported a war in eastern Ukraine through several military incursions, resulting in international sanctions, which together with a drop in oil prices led to the financial crisis in our country. He also ordered a military intervention in Syria to support his ally during the Syrian civil war. So it's my understanding that our country doesn't really have an army. They just tell a bunch of young men to go and die for them, basically. It's pretty brutal. That's my understanding. That could be inaccurate. In February 2022, during his fourth presidential term, Vladdy launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine, which prompted international condemnation and led to expanded sanctions. In September of 22, he announced a partial mobilization and forcibly annexed 4 Ukrainian outblasts into Russia. In March of 2023, the International Criminal Court issued an arrest for Vladdy for war crimes. And Bibi's a war criminal too. So I was going to look something up and I don't want to forget. So I'm going to hold the book in my hand to try to make myself remember. Related to his alleged criminal responsibility for illegal child abductions during the war, which I think he admits to 27,000 children that he has currently, that he's holding hostage. And I think that allegedly he's making them build the bombs that are being used against their own communities and their own families, allegedly. Talk about messing with somebody's head, right? Oh, look at me. I'm blocking the chakra tower. Sorry, we can't do that. That's not right. We need that chakra tower. Yes, don't say that. They are crazy. And yeah, Anna Bees, I would be honored to do that, to put your GoFundMe in my community tab. So let's get that together. I know that an American family moved to our country and they put him on the front line. I haven't heard anything about him since. That is so sad. OMG. That is nuts. I mean, I worry about my son serving right now. Although, he's training to be a medical professional. So, I mean, that would be kind of like MASH, like a MASH unit. So he wouldn't necessarily be fighting on the front lines, but still, I mean, still dangerous nonetheless. Where am I here? The expanded sanctions, I think, was where it was. In September of 22, he announced a partial mobilization, forcibly annexed 4 Ukrainian outblasts into Russia. In March 2023, the International Criminal Court issued an arrest warrant for Putin for war crimes related to his alleged criminal responsibility for illegal child abductions during the war. That's where it was, right? In April 2021, after a referendum, he signed constitutional amendments into law that included one allowing him to run for re-election twice more. See, this is what we're going to be facing with this joker. Potentially extending his presidency to 2036. In March 2024, he was re-elected to another term. Do you remember, Anna Bees, when how do you say his name? The guy who's the president of Ukraine. I'm like totally Zelensky. His first name is a lot like Daddy Vladdy's, but it's not the same. Anyway, Zelensky, when he was in the Oval Office, it was that day when they were like slamming him for not wearing a suit. And my brain is melting. Hold on. Donnie was giving him a hard time about not allowing an election to occur. And Zelensky was saying that he didn't want to stay in the position, but that he wasn't allowed to run an election during the wartime. And Donnie's eyes got real big and he was like, oh, really? Like you could literally see the wheels turning in his brain. Oh, really? During a wartime, no election. Note to self, right? Okay. Under Daddy Vladdy's rule, the Russian political system has been transformed into an authoritarian dictatorship with a personality cult. Oh, no. Isn't that what we're dealing with? And we haven't even talked about the freaking hot pants yet. You know that Erica wore those leather pants on purpose to remind JD of his favorite sectional, right? Sorry, not sorry. I had to. Anyway, his rule has been marked by endemic corruption and widespread human rights violations, including the imprisonment and suppression of political opponents. What? Who would do something like that? Intimidation and censorship of independent media in Russia, and lack of free and fair elections. Weird. Our country has consistently received very low scores on Transparency International's Corruption Perceptions Index, the Economist Democracy Index, the Freedom House's Freedom in the World Index, and the Reporters Without Borders World Press Freedom Index. So, should we read a little bit more about them? We're just at about an hour. Let me get my smoothie real quick. Early life and education, intelligence, career, political career, domestic policies, foreign policies, public image, assessments, electoral history, personal life, awards and honors, explanatory notes. Nah, let's just leave it alone. I don't want to put us all to sleep. But I do want to look up Helena Hutchins to remember the dates. Helena Hutchins, because she just happened to be from Ukraine. And she had come over to the States many years prior to getting blasted by Alec Baldwin. but she has family too that I think she helped get over to the States before the war happened, or maybe right after the war started. October 21st of 2021. So, who are the parents of Helena Hutchins? What is Helena's work? Let's just see what it says about her parents. Her mother, Olga, and her father, let's just call him Tony. It's a mouthful. Raised their daughter on a Soviet military base in the Arctic Circle, surrounded by reindeer and nuclear submarines, per Helena's website. While Helena moved to Los Angeles to pursue her career ambitions in film, her family remained in Ukraine. Yeah, I forgot about that military base thing. But before we get to should I read about BB, or should I read the part? I wanted to read to you guys, or to you, Annabes, about BB, so we can be educated about his crap. And an article from the New York Post about Nadia. So why don't I go ahead and read the article from the New York Post about Nadia, just to kind of mix it up, since we've been doing all this real dry stuff. This is published January 6, 2024, so almost 2 years ago. New York Post, which I know they're not the most reputable, but hey, we'll take it. Excuse me. Mysterious model turned pilot Nadia Marcinko, Little E's global girl, hasn't been seen since documents reveal. The blonde bombshell, who took the fifth 42 times during a Little E-related deposition, hasn't been at her longtime Upper East Side address for days, the Post has learned. And I don't think anyone's seen her since this. A neighborhood source said Nadia Marcinko has been out of sight since almost exactly around the time the first batch of court documents involving Little E were made public. I haven't seen her in 3 days, the source said. The model turned pilot, once known as Global Girl, is one of the most mysterious and elusive characters in the Little E saga. Little E reportedly called her his Rex slave. She spent years by his side, including jetting around on his plane nicknamed the Lolita Express because of all the young girls he flew aboard it, according to reports and court documents. It's never been clear, though, if she ever acted as a pilot after becoming an FAA certified commercial pilot and flight instructor. Let's see. He brought her over here from Slovakia when she was 15. She's been accused of participating in the abuse of young girls and procuring victims for Little E, a claim her lawyers have denied, insisting she was only a victim. Marcinko, who has never been charged, was granted immunity from prosecution in 2008 as part of Little E's non-prosecution agreement with Florida authorities. So what do you want to bet she's doing the same type of assistance, being an assistant to somebody like Daddy Vladdy or BB? What are the chances that she's not, right? She stayed loyal to him, visiting him at least 90 times, it says here, when he was in a Florida jail. Such a cute picture of her trying to look like a little kid. Kind of reminds me of like Lisa Loeb, you know, the singer who sings that song, Stay. She's looking all dorky with her glasses and has a little pink teddy bear. So cute. She did kind of a punked kind of thing in this outfit where she pretended that she didn't know how to fly a plane and then punked this pilot that was teaching her, and then she did all kinds of tricks. right? Yeah. I think you're on to something. Thank you, Anna Bees. I think I'm onto something too. I think I'm cracking this case. I think that Vladdy, BB, Tenacious D, and who's the other one? Spacing out. I think they're all very central to Virginia's book. Oh, the royal formerly known as Prince. I think that Virginia's book is why she's not alive. I think that if everybody read it, it would help our country figure out the scandal that we're in and how to find the way out of this mess. And I think that that's what Donnie is so freaked out about. And I think that's why he knocked down the East Wing. I think that's why he's ready to blow up nuclear bombs. I think that's why he's been dropping bombs on boats in Venezuela. Also because he's a pirate. And I think it's why everything. I think everything, Charlie Kirk, I think it's all a distraction from the Trumpstein files. In a 2017 video, she is shown pranking a flight instructor at a Palm Springs airport, pretending to be a nerdy pigtailed wearing aviation student clutching a pink teddy bear who goes up in a plane with the instructor and then wows him with her aerial acrobatic prowess, doing loops and swoops high above the desert. Desert? Oh, Palm Springs. I was thinking it was Florida. I'm like, there's no desert in Florida. It's too humid there. But yeah, Palm Springs is all desert. When she got off the plane, she shook her hair out of the pigtails and looked like a high fashion model, the clip shows. And she's wearing this like little black dress showing off her boobies. And then she began a career in real estate before turning to aviation. She's the CEO of Avaloop, which Wired magazine referred to as a supremely odd aviation branding business. Another real estate agent. Oh, and then Phil Lyman, right? Phil Lyman with Charlie Kirk. Man, that whole thing with Charlie Kirk's widow and JD Vance is just gross. It's just so stupid. That's also another distraction, I think. Absolutely. I think that was all very intentional to make a huge distraction. Just to, Trump's obsessed with the headlines of the news. So he always wants to be the headline of the news, except for when it's about the Trumpstein files. So then he's going to be manufacturing news headlines to try to distract from that. I mean, I don't think that's my opinion. I think that's absolute fact. The address for Avaloop LLC is the same as Marciano's current address on East 66th Street, a building that's long been owned by Little E's real estate developer brother, Mark Epstein. Here's another picture of her. Let's see. Where'd it go? I mean, she is a knockout. I'll give her that. She's like, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, right? And, she does look really cute in her flight uniform. Got to give her credit for looking cute. Oh, here she is, pretending to fly an airplane in her little flight jacket. I don't know if you can see her face there. See how pretty she is? What if I do it like that? Yeah, that might show it better. There we go. It's playing weird games with me. Come on, don't be playing like that. I'll just show you. There she is in front of all that equipment. It makes her look so smart, doesn't it? She should dye her hair brown. It'll make her look smarter. And wear glasses. That makes her look smart too. A little pencil behind the ear. Very cute if we want to look smart. Okay, where were we? She knows her way around a cockpit, if you know what I mean. Sorry, not sorry. Hi, Google 2.0 in chat. Hey, dang it, Nancy, what's up? Hi, Google 2.0. That's cute. I don't know what you mean by that, sweetheart. Nice to see you. Thanks for coming in and saying hi. Marcinko's testimony, in which she invoked her right against self-incrimination dozens of times, was revealed Friday as part of troves of documents made public this week from a since settled 2015 defamation case that accuser Virginia Giuffre brought against Little E Madame and now convicted Rex offender Jiz, now 61. I'm afraid she won't be convicted for much longer, but we'll see. We shall see. How are you doing, dang it, Nancy? We're just kind of getting to the end of all the material, I think, unless there's new stuff you guys want to talk about. What's going on out there in the world? How are you? Where should I put my phone? My phone. I've got so many notes. It's sad when there's things that I forget to share with you guys. So let me see. I told you guys about the towel girl thing. I'll repeat that, though, because I think it's really important. Tenacious D referred to Virginia Giuffre as his towel girl and as a spa person. And both of those, I was like, I've just never heard anybody referred to as a towel person or a spa person. Never in my life. And I've hung out at a lot of spas and a lot of athletic clubs and stuff like that. And no, nobody's called a towel girl. Nobody's called a spa person. So I thought maybe that's code for, a masseuse. A masseuse, not a massage therapist, the kind with the happy ending, a towel girl or a spa person. So in her book, which I'm so glad I read, and I'm so excited to read it a second time. Where did it go? It's right here. I'm so excited to read it a second time. And I really want to read it out loud to you guys, but I need to email with the publisher to see if that's okay. To read through like the whole thing, chapter, like a full chapter at a time. I think the way I've been doing it, just reading little parts here and there, I think is fine, little excerpts. But I had sent one email asking and didn't get an answer, and I'm pretty sure with fair use that's fine. And especially because I'm promoting the book. I'm not trying to profit off of it, and I'm not criticizing it, except I'm like critiquing it as a remarkable achievement. It's a really, really well-written, very meaningful piece of work. It's like it gets me all teared up. Because I think it cost her life too. And I think that she pretty much lays it out that I could look for that page where it's at the end. I'll reread that, where she says what it says. Let me just find it and read it. Okay, are you all ready for some classified info? JD Vance's Josh Duggar supposedly went to prison in 2022. JD Vance pops up in 2023. You can do a picture comparison, and there are no coincidences. He's a wacko doodle, but when he was at that event the other day where he was like really floundering answering that question about how he wishes Usha were Christian like him, the woman asking the question looked a lot like Usha, and the man standing next to her was a doppelganger for JD, and nobody's mentioned that I know of. It's crazy. But thank you for the information, dang it, Nancy. We'll have to check that out. Oh, he's an embarrassment to my state. He's an embarrassment to humanity. So there's this part that starts out with right here. This is chapter 38. I think it's the final chapter. It's titled Nobody's Girl. As I was beginning work on this book, one of my sons invited a new friend over, and when his mother, a woman who I'd never met before, dropped him off, I invited her inside. This is really important. When she sat down at our kitchen island, I offered her a cold drink, which is right about the time that she recognized me. "Oh my God," she said, "it's you." I smiled and nodded. This has happened to me before. The woman was uncomfortable. I could see her eyes were darting around as if she was now unsure what to say. For a moment, the fact that I was a well-known survivor of Rick's abuse hung awkwardly in the air between us. Then the woman kindly said, "It's okay. We don't have to talk about it. It's probably embarrassing." I kept smiling, even though inside I felt an old twinge. Why should I be ashamed? Because I'd been a child when I was abused by adults? "No, it's not embarrassing," I replied, "and we should be talking about it because this is happening out there and it's going to continue to happen unless we talk about it." Not wanting to sound as if I were lecturing her, I suggested we go out for a drink sometime out of earshot of our kids. Rex trafficking should not be a secret only to be whispered about in hushed tones or not at all. It's a horrible trauma-inducing crime, and we must talk about it if we ever want it to end. That's part of why I wrote this book. And I've tried on every page to be transparent. I've made mistakes in my life, and I've had moments I'm not proud of. But I haven't let those human flaws keep me from telling my story. As my collaborator and I worked together to finish this book, she sent me a line by the writer Helen Rossner that rings true to me. "Memoir is the art of shining a light behind you, picking at the stitches of your life to see how it was made." That's what I've tried to do, to examine my life in the hope of destigmatizing victims' experiences. Because only by speaking out can we move ourselves and others to act. I'm sorry to say that for all that's happened, more action is needed, much more. Because some people still think little E was an anomaly, an outlier, and those people are wrong. While the sheer number of victims little E preyed upon may put him in a class by himself, he was no outlier. The way he viewed women and girls as playthings to be used and discarded is not uncommon among certain powerful men who believe they are above the law, and even men who aren't powerful, right? Eey, gross. And many of those men are still going about their daily lives, enjoying the benefits of their power. Don't be fooled by those. This is the part I wanted to get to. Don't be fooled by those in little E's circle who say they didn't know what little E was doing. Anyone who spent any significant amount of time with little E saw him touching girls in ways you wouldn't want a creepy old man touching your daughter. They can say they didn't know he was raping children, but they were not blind, not to mention the fact that many prominent people were still associating with him after his conviction. It just makes me sick when Jizz and Tenacious D try to act like, "Oh, I hardly knew him. I don't know what he was doing. I barely even knew him." Little E offered many of the men in his circle Rex with the females he and Jizz trafficked, both girls and women. I know because I lived it. But even the men who didn't partake of the favors little E offered could see the naked photos on his walls and the naked girls on his islands or by his swimming pools. Little E not only didn't hide what was happening, he took certain glee in making people watch because he could. And people did watch. Scientists, fundraisers from Ivy League and other heralded institutions, titans of industry, they watched and they didn't care. Little E is deceased, but the attitude that allowed him to do what he did, it's alive and well. Yes, Me Too has led to certain prominent men losing their jobs. Other men have gone to prison. But just because justice has been served in a handful of high-profile cases doesn't mean we've solved the larger problem. A culture that tells girls their primary worth is to appeal to men. A culture that tells men that young girls are the ideal. The younger, as Little E said, the better. I'm not saying those cultural trends cause most men to become child molesters, but I do believe that because of those societal forces, when a molester shows his face, many people tend to look the other way. Even as I've chronicled my history with Little E and Jiz, much has happened to keep the two of them in the news. The sale of Little E's properties, for example, his Palm Beach home was sold to a developer for 18.5 mil. It has been torn down and is being redeveloped with a different address. I think I read this in my last live, like the day before yesterday, but it's still worth rereading. And it just goes over his properties and the prices. As expected, Jiz, who resides in an all-female, low-security facility in Tallahassee, has appealed her conviction. In August 2024, that appeal was denied. She also gave an interview from prison. So I think that they had to get Virginia out of the picture to do like the Todd Blanche interview. That wouldn't have flown with Virginia still alive and her attorneys and her activism. I mean, there's other victims that are also activists, but she was by far and away the most outspoken one. DY Drea, hello. Erica is actually Michelle Duger. What did Erica get kicked out of a certain county for moving little people on a show? 19 children pictures, teeth don't lie. OMG, dang it, Nancy. That's crazy. It's sad that we females always have to be on alert around all men. Yeah, exactly. And DY Idrea says, I'm so late, but why did Alec do what he did? I don't get the motive. Alec Baldwin, or because that was just like 2 minutes ago. Because I was talking about Alec Baldwin and Helena Hutchins. I think he tried to get into her pants when she first got there, and she rejected him. There were indications of that. Like they went out to dinner as soon as she got there. I think just the two of them. And I mean, she was his wife, Hilaria, the one who pretends to be from Spain, who's from Massachusetts. She's extremely attractive. Hilaria is, even though her personality isn't. But Helena, hands down, was much hotter than Alec Baldwin's wife. Plus, whoever rejected a Baldwin, probably not many. But that's my opinion. And I don't think anything can change it. I mean, I did a lot of deep diving on that case. There were just too many stupid things. When did Usha come into the picture and their kids? Oh, that is wild. That is so wild. The idea, dang it, Nancy. I'll have to look into that. Where was I? I want to read a little bit more here, even though I know I read this a couple of days ago. It's, I think, very important. And I know you guys are very interested in the book and the kind of the highlighted most important parts. And this is some of the most important, I think. Okay, so this is about Jiz. When she repeated the lie that the photo Little E took of Prince Andrew with his arm around me is fake. In response, Michael Thomas, the New Zealand photographer who visited me in Australia back in 2011 and took a photo of my original photo, front and back, came forward to say definitively it's not fake and it never has been. Not all men are monsters. In the wake of my settlement with Alan Dershowitz, and goes on and on, Meanwhile, Prince Andrew, blah, 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 little E related lawsuits, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I think we'll stop there on that. So gross. It's just so sad. I also want to reiterate that I am completely on. I don't even know if I have an opinion anymore about whether or not Virginia's husband was her handler. I have no idea. I mean, it seems unlikely that he wasn't at least co-opted to be her handler after they met, but he could have been sent there. I mean, probably, you know how real life is. It's always complicated. He was probably sent there to be her handler, and then he probably fell in love with her. And then the rest is history. I don't know. Maybe he wasn't her handler. Maybe he was. But what I wanted to say is the whole thing about her being a victim of domestic violence, I do not at all have any reason to believe that any of that is true. I sort of think that they wanted to eliminate her and that they just started throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what would stick, and having statements about her being a victim of domestic violence makes her husband look bad. It also makes her look bad. A lot of people don't understand victims of domestic violence, and they think they're stupid for staying in the relationship. But the allegations are that she was the victim of the domestic violence, but then there were protection orders that she wasn't allowed to have any contact with her kids. And again, it's like the discrediting of her and making her look crazy and making the whole situation look crazy. But to get her and her husband separated would be essential in order to off her, because it would be much harder to do it if she weren't alone. So also in her book, she talks a lot about safety. She talks a lot about security. She talks a lot about home security. She talks a lot about overt threats and constantly being on alert. There's just no way in hell she went out to this ranch and lived there by herself without surveillance, without a security system. And then the whole thing about getting hit by the bus in front of her property the month or two before she passed away. Why do they always leave out of the story that it was right in front of her driveway? They're hiding the fact that it happened at her address because she was targeted, and it's so much more obvious. To say that a school bus hit her at 70 miles an hour at the end of her driveway as she was allegedly trying to turn, or that her driver, an older woman that worked for her, was trying to turn left to go into the driveway. There was a long driveway to the property because it was a farm, a ranch. And while she was trying to turn left, she got slammed into by a school bus at 70 miles an hour. Bullcrap. Absolute effing bullcrap. And then that whole thing with the post and blah, blah, blah. No, I think that they wanted to eliminate her. She was marked and they were working on it. And for all we know, they eliminated her prior to the date that they said was the last day that she was of this earth. And as far as friends and family and their accounts and their lack of suspicion of anything other than self-injury, I think that they're scared that they've been paid. They could be paid off. They could be scared of the same types of things happening to themselves or other people in their family. That's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. Let's stay caught up with you guys here. I think the whole thing in Alec Baldwin case was carelessness. I don't believe he did it on purpose. Well, there were too many weird things. Like they had just come back from lunch. He had been yelling at her the night before. She had resolved a problem. You know, a bunch of the, and that's fine for you to have that opinion, but it's just kind of coming back to me. A bunch of the staff, a bunch of the crew had to stay in hotels that were like an hour away, I think in Albuquerque, and Santa Fe was really close and expensive. And it was just like 20 minutes away. And so the people that had to stay an hour away were upset because they were working long days, long hours, and then they were having to drive back and forth an hour each way. And they were worried about their safety and they weren't getting enough sleep. And so they asked to have rooms in Santa Fe, and they were told, no, it's not in the budget. And then they quit. They protested. They went on strike, and Helena fixed the problem, she thought, by canceling this filming equipment that was like $14,000 a day to rent. And so she had it scheduled for X amount of days. So she canceled the reservations to use that equipment for 2 days to recover $28,000 to pay for the hotel rooms so that the crew wouldn't strike. And so that was the night before. And Alec was livid, and he laid into her and he cursed at her in front of everybody. And then there was that really heavy set crew member who was the key grip. He was the one who was holding the camera all the time, and his name was Lane. He had a lot to say, and he was the one who was going to be giving testimony the very next day after the case got dismissed. And his depositions are wild and crazy. I'll see if I can find some and put links in the description. So he was one of the people that went on strike. And because he wasn't there, Helena was doing his job. Helena, as the cinematographer, was not the one holding the camera, except she was that day. But Alec was so pissed off about her taking leadership, doing something without his authorization, like disrespecting his authority, to quote South Park, which, by the way, you got to watch new South Park. But there's a lot more too. There's a lot there. It's just been so long since I've reviewed the case. You know, there were 3 situations with explosions. There was a rattlesnake on the set. Like, I mean, they were only like 2 weeks into their 21 days of shooting. So they only had like a week left when it happened. They were on a very tight schedule, and they were fine, except for the fact that everybody was going on strike. So then that morning, you know, Alec yelled at her the night before and said, no, you're not doing that. Screw you. And then the next day they had new people coming in to take spots for the people that were striking. So it was like crew from basically like an employment agency in Santa Fe. And then they were trying to get them organized, and it was all chaotic and annoying because they lost an entire half day from early in the morning until lunch. Like right when they were about to start shooting, it was lunchtime. And the rules and the regulations with that field are very strict because of the long hours and because of the tendency to kind of overwork people. So like you can't be late taking lunch. So they had to take the lunch, and then they were coming back from lunch. So it was like 1:30 in the afternoon, and they hadn't gotten a freaking lick of work done, but they'd all been there since like 6 or 7 in the morning. And there was other stuff too, but no, he was pissed AF. And there was a lot of things that he was pissed with her about, not just with her taking that authority and trying to fix the problem. So, yeah, and there's just too many coincidences, you know, that the bullet shouldn't have been on the set, let alone in the gun, that he just happened to be pointing it at her close range, like 18 inches close range. It was much closer than anybody ever wants to say. I think it was 18 inches away, and right into her freaking armpit, right into her freaking armpit. It ripped through and came out her other side, and then it went into Joel Sousa. And she immediately, what was it that she said? I can't feel my legs. This isn't good. And she collapsed, and it was over. It was over. So sad. And then it took a long time for medics to get there. There was drugs involved. Remember, there was that little biatch that served 18 months. She's probably been released now. She was hiding cocaine. So anyway, it maybe was a freak accident. Absolutely, it could have been. But I don't think it was. I think that he either hit on her and she said no, or she did the casting couch thing with him, but then was like, get away from me because I'm married and I'm trying to do my job. Because, I mean, you got to be honest, in that field, if you don't do the casting couch thing, you're not going to get the job. She charged twice as much as other cinematographers. So if he's on a tight budget, why is he paying her double? Right? Anyway, I have strong opinions about it because I loved Alec Baldwin. I really did. And it really disappointed me. And he was such a freaking asswipe about it. I mean, even if it was just innocent and stupid, the way he was like, well, the gun put itself in my hand and then it exploded and I didn't even know what happened. And then you find out that his freaking dad was a rifle shooting coach for 28 years at a high school. Did you know that? He literally tried to act like he'd never met a gun in his life. His father was a effing coach for 28 years at a high school in Amityville, Long Island, where they were from, or near Amityville. Anyway, you can tell I get a little passionate about it. Grr. Because, you know, it's like I lived in Malibu. I know people in real life. Everybody sleeps with everybody. I mean, you can't work in the entertainment field and not do that. I mean, Me Too or no Me Too. I mean, it's usually consensual, but then you have people like Harvey Weinstein that nobody in their right mind for any role would hop into the sack with, who do what they do. Anyway, sorry, not sorry. I obviously have very strong feelings about it. You know, she reminded me so much of a dear friend of mine who did the same type of work in Hollywood. So much, of like one of my bestest friends from college. So that's a lot, I think, of why I get so passionate about it, because she reminds me so much of that dear friend. Like, it just sucks. I mean, she was married for 15 years. Her son was 9 years old. They get a call. She's freaking dead. Like, are you effing kidding me? And then the guy gets off scot-free, basically. Screw him. Screw him. And his effing wife, Hilaria. And what, they have like 1 million kids by now. Okay. Anyway, back on track. I appreciate your comments, dang it, Nancy. And I love that you have a different opinion, because you could be absolutely right and I could just be going off the deep end. I mean, seriously. Yes. What else we got? Okay. Anna B said it. Let's see. Anna Bees, you're not allowed to disagree with me. We agree on everything. No, I'm just kidding. I think that the whole thing with Alec Baldwin is a case of carelessness. I don't believe he did it on purpose. But then why did the effing judge let him off the hook? Because she let him off the hook before the case even started. I forget the details, but there was something that she was not allowing to be admitted into court that was like very vital. And she's like, no, we're not going to hear that. I believe she was a plant distraction from J.D. Vance actually being Josh Duggar. There's a picture when J.D. and his wife, Free Beard, it's undeniable, of his wife, Free Beard free. It's undeniable that J.D. is Josh Duggar, which is funny with the initials J.D. Yeah. That's wild. Dang it, Nancy, I'm going to have to look into this. Have you ever seen Fitness Flat Earther? He recently did a short on both of them a few days ago. Very, very interesting. I have not, but I will check it out. Anna, my dear, please do. It's crazy. Look at JD Vance and his wife's wedding picture. He's wearing white. It is so beyond creepy with the comparison of Josh. Jazz, that burns my soul that a martial art teacher was abused. Right. Robbie seems like such a good guy. I mean, nobody's perfect and anybody can be an abuser. I mean, including myself. I mean, there's times when I feel like I'm emotionally abusive and I'd rather not be, but sometimes I am, honestly, if I'm being honest with myself and the world. And also, yeah, a martial arts teacher, he's very strong and muscular, and then being a martial arts teacher where you know how to really hurt somebody with a minimal amount of effort, right? Because you just take their strength and use it against them. It's so sad seeing her brothers and one of them finding her. Right. The younger brother, Sky D, is the one who found her. And I think tried to perform CPR on her for like 20 or 45 minutes. And then her older brother, I mean, both of them have wives that are very supportive and vocal too. And, you know, I mean, she's got the 3 kids. You never hear from Robbie and the 3 kids. Like, why is that? I mean, one of her kids, I don't even think is a minor. I think the daughter was 15, and this was almost a year ago. So they're a year older now. And I think her sons were like 18 and 19 when it happened. And that would like almost a year ago, like not quite, because it was January, February, March, April. Wasn't it April of this year? So more like 7 months ago. I can't do math, so you'll have to help me out here. Anyway, so yeah, they could be like 16 and 19 and 20 now, if I'm accurate in my years. I know the daughter was 15 when she passed, and that the daughter was the youngest of the 3. And then the boys, one of them was 18. I think it was the younger one, but it could have been the older one was 18 and the younger one was like 17. I don't know. I mean, it has a lot of that information in the book, which I'm rereading, so I will have it more accurate in me brain. Yeah, let's see. It's so sad seeing her brothers and one of them finding her. It is absolutely horrible. And to think about her kids. And just to think about her. And even if she did do it herself, it's still just as bad, in my opinion. I mean, I think red rum is worse than self-injury, but being assaulted and violated in that most intimate way is like a incomplete red rum, basically. So in my opinion, and in certain cultures, a grape is considered a crime more heinous than red rum. I remember you saying that before. Can you imagine having your children taken away from false allegations? I've seen many women in that situation, and they are completely soulless, lost, distraught, understandably become addicts. Absolutely. Dang it, Nancy. Yes, that is so sad, having people stage so many things against her and her husband. If he wasn't abusive, which it doesn't seem like he would have been, then to have his reputation trashed. And then if he tries to stand up against that, that just makes him look like a jackass, right? And it can be very dangerous if there's people like BB and Daddy Vladdy and the royal formerly known as Prince and Tenacious D that are invested in him keeping his mouth shut, right? They are probably scared to speak up. Exactly. And they don't even need to be threatened directly. Nobody needs a direct threat to know that they're under threat. I mean, come on. Right? Thanks so much for being here, you guys. Let me look at my notes and then wrap up. And I really appreciate your comments. Dang it, Nancy and DYI Drea, if you're still here, and Anna Bees. Even if she did it to herself, she had to feel so alone and distraught. Well, and you know how we say, you and I have said this all along, Annabise, that she'd already been through so much. Like, why would she throw in the towel after winning piles and piles of cash? If you read the book, you really get the feeling that she is prevailing. Like, yes, it was hard. And of course, she's going to have moments. And she had attempts previously. I want to say maybe 3 years before the end of the book. And the end of the book is like 2021-ish, sort of. I mean, because it kind of blends into now, but not really. It was written 4 years ago. So I think she had made attempts on her life, like at least one, if not two, serious attempts on her life. Like she took like 200 pills when she was in the hospital. And I can't remember what she was in the hospital for. Well, she broke her neck. So she had all those health problems. She'd gotten allegedly bitten by a mosquito that gave her like malaria and something else. And then she fell down because she was totally woozy from the medicine and the sickness. And then she broke her neck. And I'm not convinced that it started with a mosquito. It could have been a poison dart. I mean, that's how they do it over there in that country that starts with an R. Poison darts are a common thing in that gross, dark world. And then when she was in the hospital, there could have been malfeasance. There could have been malpractice. There could have been interference. Somebody could have snuck in posing as a nurse and injecting her with something like feces. I mean, seriously, you just never know. It's not just in the movies. Anyway, so it was when she was in the hospital, I think, with the broken neck and the surgery and all strung out and stressed out, that she took like 200 pills, I think. But again, maybe she was told that she needed to write that or her kids were going to get offed, right? Because they want to like lay the groundwork. And a lot of times, not to sound like a crazy conspiracy theorist, but a lot of times groups of powerful people like this will order a person to off themselves or their loved ones will be hurt. So they have a choice. They can either take care of it themselves or they can feel responsible for one of their children having something horrible happen. I mean, come on. Ugh. Even if she did, yeah. How did she feather her spine, her own spine? So she broke her neck when she fell, when she was suffering from the malaria and some other disease that she thought she contracted when she was on a vacation to visit butterflies. And then she thinks she was bit by a mosquito there, which gave her the malaria and the something else. And then she fell and broke her neck. And then she had to have at least 2 surgeries on her neck. Never her own spine. Sever her own spine? Is that what you meant? Dang it, voice text. I know. You're fine. You're good. No problem. Yeah. I think that's most of it. What are we getting close? Almost an hour and 50 minutes. Not too terribly long, but pretty long. Boris Yeltsin was the one with the 2% approval ratings. I told you that, guys, earlier, right? 2% approval rating. So in that regard, Tenacious D can feel great about his 30% approval rating. It's like, it's 28% better than Boris Yeltsin. OMG. And it's interesting, too, to think about what Tenacious D was up to when all these things were happening over there in the I country and the R country and all these other political things were going on. Because we know he was in Leningrad, St. Petersburg. We know he was there in 1987 with Ivana. And that's maybe when he, I don't know, maybe he was there in 1987 with Ivana. And that's maybe when he, I don't know, maybe he was there in 1987 with Ivana. And that's maybe when he, I don't know, maybe he was there in 1987 with Ivana. And that's maybe when he, I don't know, maybe he was there in 1987 with Ivana. And that's maybe when he may or may not have become an asset. And 1987, I think Melania would have been 17 years old. I think she was born in 1970. Or no, was she born in 71 or 72? Let me look that up real quick. Let's see. Melania Trump, date of birth. 1970, April 26, 1970. And so they say that Virginia Giuffre passed away on April 25th, the day before Melania's birthday. And then allegedly Melania was at that funeral with Tenacious D, Pope Francis's funeral on her 55th birthday. I don't think that was her. You know, she's wearing that black veil and she looked like a man. Her skin and her hair were looking awful. Her nose looked awful. She had a black veil covering not just her face, but her hands too, her man hands. You're not going to find a lot of women that are 5'11" and that skinny, but you could find some drag queens like that. Just saying. Okay, so man, JD, I am like very curious about what you were saying. Dang it, Nancy. I got to check that out. So the leather pants, the tight leather pants, the alligator tears. One of the things that I want to say before I wrap up is how annoying Erica Kirk is. If you watch her talk when she's talking about Charlie and she's talking about JD and how he reminds her of Charlie, and the way she looks up and the way she makes these long pauses, I honestly believe that she's trying to hypnotize people. Nobody talks like that. Nobody like looks up when they're talking, and then she closes her eyes when she says certain things. I think she's trying to hypnotize people. And then she does things with her hands sometimes. Like that one time when she's got the Labubu next to her and she's wearing the pink fluffy dress, and she's talking about when she met her husband or the first time she saw him in the snake of the line. She's doing a lot of that weird crap with her eyes, and she's not moving her hands except when she says in the snake of the line. And then at another point in that speech, she does some hand gesturing, and it just seems very contrived to me. It seems like it's some kind of hypnosis. I don't know that much about it. I barely know anything about hypnosis at all, but I would think that in CULTs that they would teach you how to do that. And you know, Tenacious D does it too. Remember when he was campaigning and he was talking about how he just wanted to protect the women, whether they wanted it or not, and how they were going to feel loved by him and they were going to feel protected by him. And he was just like going into this like deep trance, weird ass crap. I don't think that was just by mistake. I think that was by design. Let's see. Yes, that is weird. I don't think that was Melania at Pope Francis's funeral either. It was her 55th birthday. And, you know, I'm like reaching for the chair over here. It's up here. She hates the guy that she's married to. Like she's going to do a public thing like that with him on her 55th birthday when she doesn't want to hang out with him on any day, anywhere. Right? I mean, and now we see a lot of her, I think, because his health is like hitting the skids. His mental health is hitting the skids. His physical health is hitting the skids. I can't imagine that he can go on much longer like this, but you never know. I mean, sometimes people drag on at a very low functioning level, psychologically or physically or both. And I think for him it's both. I mean, he sounds like he's half asleep half of the time when he's talking. She is so annoying. She's very pretty. And she's hilarious. Have you seen that comedian? What is her name? The one who does Caroline with a K. I can't think of her name all of a sudden. You know who I'm talking about. Dang it. If I pull up YouTube, it'll probably pull up a video of hers right away. Actually, if I go to my history, I was watching a video of hers not too long ago. Here she is. Lysandra V. This is hilarious. Are you ready? I'll show you guys. He was friend. Actually, she does a really good Melania, like even better, I think, than the Caroline Levitz that she does. But I think she's doing what we're talking about. And I think she just dropped this today. So let's play it from the beginning. Please. He was friend. Here, I'm going to try it. There we go. This moment alone to prayer. Please. He was friend. Thank you. I love her. Why do you take wrong man again? Okay? You take a man whose name starts with B, but not that one. It is. I start to think I may deal with wrong person. Okay? I say to you, I cannot do for longer, and you make it longer. Okay? What maybe I think to you. Sorry, you guys probably can't hear it. I'm like holding it up here. So, I put in order today, Mandami. I am sorry. I'm so stupid. Hold on. Maybe I can hold the mic closer. I'll just do it so you can see her from further away, since you can't see her that well anyway. I'll start it over so you can actually hear it. Sorry about that. I'm a nut job, aren't I? That's what happens when it's almost 9 o'clock. I'm going to turn into a pumpkin in 2 minutes. I barely watched the documentaries today, and I was so sad and traumatizing. Jazz, did you read the book on your show? I read some of it. I've been reading excerpts. I'm going to ask for permission to read entire chapters and go through the entire book, hopefully. But I don't want to do that without explicit permission. I mean, I'm not so concerned about a copyright strike. I'm just trying to be respectful. I mean, I should be concerned about a copyright strike too, right? Anna, I noticed that not being Melania. I'm wondering if she's still around. That's an interesting question. Dang it, Nancy. I'll be quiet. Keep reading. Oh, you're cool. Dang it, Nancy. But this is so cute. So let's do it so you can hear her. Lysandra V comedy. She's awesome. I'll link it up in the description too. Moment alone to prayer. Please. He was friend. Thank you. Why do you take wrong man again? Okay? You take a man whose name starts with B, but not that one. It is. I start to think I may deal with wrong person. Okay? I say to you, I cannot do for longer, and you make it longer. Okay? What maybe I think to you, head is more direct. So, I put in order today, Mandami win, heart attack tomorrow. Good. I feel like direction could be our way to, I give you artistic liberty, but this is taking long. I am still hot. I will be hot because I'm Slavic and I'm very beautiful, so I stay too hot. But maybe if you have Gavin to call me in front of it, no, it's okay. Do your big one, and I do mean big one. And we shall talk again next time. Amen. Oh, I'm so sad, so sad, so sad. Amen. Rest his soul. Okay, I'm good. Thank you. This moment alone. Too funny. I love her comedy. It took me a while to start watching her. She's the one who does the big outrageous crosses when she's making fun of Caroline with a K, and she'll do like tennis rackets as crosses, or just huge crazy things. Like recently she did one with excavators, like little toy excavators. Hilarious. Okay, you guys, I'm gonna wrap it up. Love and light. I hope you guys have a really good night and get some good rest, relaxation. Eat your protein and your veggies. Stay hydrated, and thanks a million for watching, and sending you lots of love. And yeah, get that thing, Annabise, your GoFundMe, please, please, please. End stream. Is it gonna do it? There we go. All right, good night, you guys.